All right, so the first story of the day is about President Trump unrolled or unveiled a prison reform act and a first step. It's literally called the First Step Act to try to reform the prison system because there's a lot of flaws with our prison system, many ways, but one of them, in a lot of people's opinions is they're arresting too many nonviolent drug offenders, and also that the system is built to create more prisoners. As even with the privatized prison system, I've always been very skeptical of it because if you have a business selling medicine, you're trying to make the most money as possible. If your business is selling prisons, you would try to make the most money possible. And if it's a corporation, you might actually be held under the law to do that. So, he's not changing the whole system like that, but there's a lot of things that have always been very suspicious to me about the prison system. I've been very passionate about it as a kid. And it's cool to see President Trump collaborating with a lot of people. It's a bipartisan act. You have Tim Scott, I believe Rand Paul was a part of it. Anything that Rand Paul's a part of is usually good news. There's Democrats. Trump joked about it. He said bipartisan. He's like, that's a good word, bipartisan. Because Trump really is a cool guy. Like, I know that the media hates him, but he's willing to work with anyone. If you left and right, I don't think he really wants to divide. He just wants to make sense. But it's the First Step Act. So he explained it as three different things that he's working on. The first one for the First Step Act is to provide incentive for low-risk inmates to learn skills for employment, vocational, educational, or faith-based programs so that they have skills that when they get out of prison, they can go right into the workforce as opposed to committing another crime or feeling lost and, not having the support around them or the career around them to keep themselves out of trouble. So, for a while, I think it was Nick Cannon who, I don't know if he's a fan of Trump, but Nick Cannon had a poem and he said, "Nothing stops a bullet like a job." That was his punchline, where he was explaining in the hood, a lot of people are getting into trouble because there's no jobs. That's been a huge talking point from the left for a long time. And now that there's so many jobs, I do believe that is true. I know no one wants to give Trump credit or talk about that, but a job is a good way to stop crime. If people are just, doing nothing, it's a lot easier to get into trouble. But if you're on a schedule, it's a lot harder to have the time to do this stuff. That's what I always say. I'm like, where did these thugs have the time to do all this stuff? Like, I don't even have time to, barely have time to go to the beach or something, let alone cause a bunch of problems. I always say to people in my life, I got enough problems. Like, life is crazy enough. The world is crazy enough. Taxes are crazy enough. Paying for rent. Like, life is already crazy. You don't need to add more, negativity to my life. It's hard enough just, not trying to give all my money over to the U.S. government. So, I don't know where people get all this time for all this bad stuff. But anyway, that's the first step, is to provide incentive for low-risk inmates to learn skills for employment, vocational, educational, or faith-based programs. I love how Trump, I know a lot of people hate this about him. I think it's hilarious. He wanted to talk about how good his economy is. So every time he was like, we got jobs for him. You got to see the interview at the White House, or the press conference rather. He kept talking of the economy because he's like, now there's jobs for them to teach and they'll get out. Like, he's always got to boost himself. But I personally think it's because the news doesn't do it. So he has to repeat himself 50 times, just to get the word out there about how good he's doing. I think it's hilarious. And he did that for that. But that's a side note. The second thing is, he wants to move federal inmates closer to their family and their home so that when they're in prison, they're actually in a prison closer to their home so they could talk to their friends and family and have their family easily visit them. It's a very compassionate, kind thing to do. I mean, there's a lot of people in jail that are shipped all over the place, maybe in their state or outside of their state, depending on the crime, where they're not near their family. And to people that don't care about criminals, they say, who cares? They're just criminals. But, there's lots of cases of criminals being falsely charged. There's a lot of people in jail, probably millions, for nonviolent drug offenses. There's things and mistakes that people make. We all make mistakes, and some people's mistakes cost them, years behind bars. And some of them are justified, for sure. I'm sure a lot of them are justified, but a lot of them aren't. And these are people regardless. So, it's nice to see that he has the compassion and kindness, regardless of what their crime is, to try to get them closer to their friends and family. Because if there's somebody that's going to get out of prison eventually, which most people are, there's not that many people locked up for life, they're going to go back into the real world, whether you like it or not. So, either they're going to go back into the real world and make a good life for themselves. I've had friends that have gone to prison for things that were, not that big of a deal, to be honest. I mean, it wasn't a great decision, but it wasn't like murder or rape or anything. And then they're into the real world. The ones I know are thriving, doing very well. But, that really does take family, friends, and being close to the people that you love. So I thought that was really nice that Trump put that in the First Step Act. Very cool, because a lot of these prisoners need some sort of support group or they're going to end up right back in jail and hurting somebody else. The third thing is he said he's going to roll back the Clinton crime law, which disproportionately jailed and targeted African Americans in their communities. I mean, I did a senior speech for high school. I did my senior speech on private prisons and the disproportional prison system, because if you look at the amount of Black and Latino Americans who are getting jailed for, nonviolent drug crimes, it's way, way higher than, other races. And that's just the statistics. And people could say it's for one reason or another, but a lot of it is upbringing, maybe location, things that as a kid you can't really control. I think the fact that he's rolling back the 3 strikes program, I believe it was, or, whatever it was, Bill Clinton's crime bill is widely known in the Black community to be one of the most costly bills that any politician has passed. Like, yeah, Bill Clinton's cool. He plays the saxophone. He's a cool guy. But it's like you say one thing, you do the other thing. This is a huge win for all of the people I know that have been talking about prison reform for years, rolling back the Clinton crime bill, just like Trump rolled back NAFTA. Just like Trump will pretty much do anything that makes sense. And he ended his speech, you can watch it yourself if you'd like, I'm paraphrasing. He said, he said, we're still going to be tough on crime and we're still going to be good to law enforcement. So Trump wants you to know, if say you're maybe a conservative or someone that's not that interested in criminals, he's not being weak. Obviously, Trump is not a weak guy. He's always criticized for being too strong. But he's not getting weak on crime. He's not getting weak on enforcement. He's staying strong on all those, but he's trying to build a system that gives good people a second chance and gives people that are going to get out of jail anyway a path to not committing crimes. And a lot of this is, I do personally think, it's a system thing where the system is kind of built. It's like a loop. It's like, if you listen to the media and you listen to what they're telling you, you'll end up dead or in jail in a lot of ways. It's like they preach a message of no self-accountability. They tell you to do a lot of wrong things. And, a lot of people believe and buy into that, lifestyle, whether it be music with a bad message that tells you to, deal drugs and kill people. And then if you actually do that, you're going to end up dead or in jail. Whether it's, the media, which tells you, oh, no, nothing's your fault, blame everybody else. And then you follow that lifestyle. You take no self-accountability. You have no self-empowerment. You'll end up in jail. And there's a lot of good people that fall victim to either, not having the right upbringing, not having the right teachers or parents in their life, and having false leaders and false idols that mislead them in the right direction. So it's cool to see President Trump really understanding that, and to make America great again, or better than it ever was. It's not just going to be on, foreign trade and all the things he's doing with the economy, but it's also reforming the prison system, hopefully soon reforming the education system, and reforming the mind control system that we're stuck in, that just has us like hamsters on a wheel, doing stuff to put us in a career that we don't really like, or to put us down a path that's going to lead us to destruction. And he's slowly, from mainstream media to prison reform to trade deals to foreign relationships in Syria and with North Korea, he's cracking the matrix. Trump really is the matrix cracking president. He cracked open the media matrix, he's cracking open the prison matrix, and he cracked open the foreign setup matrix from, whatever it is, from bad trade deals with Canada and Mexico, such as NAFTA, to really sketchy things like NATO and EU that are not really operating on a save the world type level. It's more like a destroy the world and act like we're good people. I really love what he's doing, and it's so cool to see people like Van Jones, who is a very big critic of Trump. It's nice to see, and I told you this, not to act like I knew this, but I've been saying for months, Van Jones, although I disagree with him a lot, I could tell he has a soul. I could tell he's a good guy, maybe trapped in a bad network who has to pretend like he feels a certain way. Or maybe he does feel that way, but I knew Van Jones had a soul, and it was nice to see him give Trump credit and say he might be the uniter in chief. Very, very cool. Not cool is Bernie Sanders, who is saying Trump's a racist, sexist, xenophobic bigot, blah, blah, blah. Like the day that Trump passes prison reform, Bernie Sanders starts calling him a xenophobic bigot. It really starts to make you question, is Bernie Sanders just a lapdog for the Clintons and the DNC establishment? Like, is he there to protect and mislead progressives into supporting the crime bill that the Clintons passed? Because, I mean, all the evidence from taking $200 million to fight the establishment, then buying a beach house, doing the exact opposite of what he said he could do, protecting the media, protecting voter fraud, and literally like rigging, cheating elections, and now he's attacking Donald Trump as a racist. The day that he does the least racist thing possible and literally reforms the prison system, I already know who Bernie Sanders is. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. I found that out. Trump did what he wanted to do as far as, Bernie had I forget what it was. It was one of the agreements overseas that Bernie was against and Trump was against it. And then the second that Trump does it, Bernie's on to the next thing. He doesn't really care. But that's a side note. Prison reform, First Step Act, that's what it's about. Very cool to see President Trump. He's exactly who the media says he's not. They're also, I want to say before I move on to the next topic, they're putting out Nazi propaganda. I logged into Twitter this morning and they said, someone at a theater said, "Hail Trump, hail Hitler." So just think about how sick and twisted the media is. The day that President Trump is literally in the flesh changing the prison system, and it's going to primarily and proportionately help Black and Latino Americans by the millions, they're trying to tell you that Trump is a Nazi the same exact day. This is not a coincidence. They do this every single day. They flip reality. As Malcolm X tried to warn the people, the media controls the mind of the masses. They have the power to make the hero look like the villain, and they have the power to make the villain look like the hero. And that's what they've done. I'm not saying Trump is perfect, but he's not this soul-sucking vampire who's trying to destroy humanity. He's literally the opposite. He's a rich, semi-arrogant, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I like Trump. A rich, semi-arrogant billionaire who got tired of the system. He got tired of politicians. He got tired of the world heading in the wrong direction, incompetent leadership all the way around in Europe and the United States, and wanted to do something about it. So he's actually a really good guy. They make him look bad. They make all the bad leaders in Europe look good. They literally reverse reality. So once again, Trump is proving with his actions. Meanwhile, politicians like all these, I don't even know, Pelosi, Schumer, and Sanders, all they do is talk. They're all words, no action. Trump's the opposite. He's all action, no words. Congratulations, America. It's a good time to be alive.